Hello and welcome to Battle for the White House. This is your show where we bring you the latest news from the United States of America in the race for the US presidency. I'm Peter Stemmet. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at what we have to bring you this week. After an extensive investigation, the FBI has recommended no charges for Hillary Clinton, despite being extremely careless. President Barack Obama hits the campaign trail and says he is ready to pass the baton to Clinton. And we take a look at possible vice president candidates for Clinton and Trump. Wits lecturer Tinashe Chuchu joins us to discuss all these matters and more. But first, Hillary Clinton has been described as careless. In a fresh political storm, Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton was investigated by the FBI this past week in the ongoing probe into whether she or her staff did anything illegal by setting up a private email server while running American foreign policy. In the end, Clinton has had the charges lifted by the FBI, who are recommending that prosecutors do not seek charges in the case.
The FBI has announced that it will not recommend criminal charges against Hillary Clinton over her use of private emails while she was a Secretary of State. FBI Director James Comey said no reasonable prosecutor would pursue a case, but said the likely Democratic presidential nominee was extremely careless with classified information.
Although the Department of Justice makes final decisions on matters like this, we are expressing to Justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case.
The FBI interviewed Clinton on Saturday morning as part of the investigation into the use of a private email server for official emails while she served as Secretary of State. Questions over Clinton's use of a private account have dogged her presidential campaign for more than a year and fueled voter concerns that she is not trustworthy. In a statement released, it said that Secretary Clinton gave a voluntary interview about her email arrangements while she was secretary. She's pleased to have had the opportunity to assist the Department of Justice in bringing this review to a conclusion. Out of respect for the investigative process, she will not comment further on her interview. Clinton aimed to become the nation's first female commander-in-chief.
The first time in our nation's history that a woman will be a major party's nominee for president of the United States.
The Democrat candidate has apologized for exclusively using a private email account and her own server during her time as Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013. The interview came amid revelations that U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch held an impromptu meeting with Clinton's husband, former President Bill Clinton.
To talk about how it will be resolved. It's important to make it clear that that meeting with President Clinton does not have a bearing on how this matter is going to be reviewed, resolved, and accepted by me.
The top U.S. law enforcement official admitted that the private encounter with Bill Clinton had cast a shadow over the investigation into the emails in the run-up to the November general election.
The important thing for me as the Attorney General is the integrity of this Department of Justice. And the fact that the meeting that I had is now casting a shadow over how people are going to view that work is something that I take seriously and deeply.
Lynch was appointed to a post by President Barack Obama, who himself has publicly endorsed Clinton for president and is scheduled to campaign with her this week.
With Hillary Clinton as the presumptive Democratic nominee, eyes are turning to the next question. Who will she pick as her vice president nominee? We're going to have a look at possible names that have been swirling for a few weeks now, with the list ranging from long-term associates and supporters to businessmen. Let's take a look now at who the presumptive choices may well be for Clinton. Here's a look at who's coming up. There you can see Elizabeth Warren, Massachusetts Senator. Some actually thought that Elizabeth was going to run for president herself. She never actually got into the race, but she is a possible VP pick for Clinton. Sherrod Brown, a senator from Ohio. Not much known about him, certainly in South African circles, but he is a potential pick for Clinton. Next up on the list, you can see there Cory Booker, a senator from New Jersey. Next up on the list of possible VP picks for Hillary Clinton. Javier Becerra from California, he's part of their House of Representatives. It would be very interesting if he did actually get the nomination, because then you would have a woman and an Hispanic man at the top of the ticket. That is something that has never happened in United States history. Next up, Tom Perez, another Latino pick. He is the current Labor Secretary in the Obama administration. We're looking at VP picks here for Hillary Clinton, and there you can see Martin O'Malley, the former Maryland governor. O'Malley was actually a presidential candidate himself, but he dropped out of the race after the Iowa caucuses back in February. That's a look at who's in the race to be Hillary Clinton's pick as vice president. We now move on to the Republican side, and their presumptive candidate, Donald Trump, also is looking to announce he's vice president before the Republican National Convention in Cleveland later this month. It's reported that Trump has started an apprentice-style search, meeting with possible candidates one by one and then posting on Twitter about it. Wouldn't expect anything less from Mr. Trump. Now, these are the possible Republican VP candidates. Joni Ernst, an Iowa senator. Be very interesting. Trump has had a lot of things to say about women. Would he actually put one on the ticket with him? There's a man, Tom Cotton, Arkansas senator. What's so significant about him? Only 39 years old. That would make him the youngest ever VP candidate, younger even than Dan Quayle, who served under President George H.W. Bush from 1989 to 1993. We'll elaborate on that a little bit later. Next up on the list, Mike Pence. He's a governor from Indiana. That would be an interesting choice as well. Next up on the list of possible VP candidates on the Republican side, Chris Christie, New Jersey governor. He was also part of the presidential race. He was a candidate. He dropped out to endorse Donald Trump. A lot of people thought that that was very strategic, putting himself in line possibly for the VP position. Similar story with John Kasich, the Ohio governor, who remained in the presidential race long after he could mathematically no longer secure the overall nomination. And there you can see Jeff Sessions, senator from Alabama, another possible VP pick for Donald Trump on the Republican side of the U.S. presidential race. 8 years after Hillary Clinton helped unite Democrats behind Barack Obama's presidential campaign, he is now returning the favor. Obama and Clinton made their first joint appearance on Tuesday in North Carolina, a state the Democrats are eager to pull back into their win column in November. President Obama has never been shy in showing support towards Clinton.
President Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton made their first appearance as Obama and Clinton in North Carolina, as state Democrats are eager to pull back into their win over. The Democratic duo's rally cements a new phase in their storied political relationship.
I believe in Hillary Clinton, and I want you to help elect her to be the next president of the United States of America. That's why I'm here. And there has never been any man or woman more qualified for this office than Hillary Clinton. Ever.
The duo were bitter rivals in the 2008 Democratic primary, but became colleagues when Clinton joined Obama's cabinet as Secretary of State. Now they are co-dependents as Clinton seeks the White House once again.
Most of all, though, we're going to build on the vision for America that President Obama has always championed. A vision for a future where we do great things together, not as red states and blue states, but as the United States.
There is no doubt that the U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama shares her husband's sentiments.
I'm proud to say that this year, for the first time in history, we just might elect a president, a female president of the United States.
There's also a list of celebrities, other individuals and organizations who have publicly supported Clinton.
The best politicians have understood that running a campaign is in many ways like running the opening of a blockbuster movie. You've got to build up hype, and you've got to build up so much hype that in the same way people will go to the box office on the day you open, they're going to go to the ballot box on the day of the election.
The Clinton campaign hopes that Obama's presence at her side serves as a reminder of another, more popular chapter in her career. For 4 years, Obama trusted her to circle the globe representing his foreign policy.
Joining us now in studio to talk about the status of the current U.S. elections is Wits lecturer Tinashe Chuchu. Tinashe, thanks for coming in, man. Much appreciated. Let's start with the endorsement of Hillary Clinton by President Barack Obama. Not a surprise, they're both from the Democratic Party, so of course it was going to happen. But how significant or important is it for a running candidate to have the endorsement of a sitting president?
Yes, that's significant because, as they like to call it, the bully pulpit. So you find that having a sitting president on your side is very, very significant because she's going to benefit from advisors from the infrastructure that Obama has at his disposal. And also Clinton supporters from 2008 believe that Obama owes them.
Right.
And it has been believed that the reason why Clinton was the Secretary of State was a way of, I wouldn't say pandering to Clinton supporters, but a way of showing that he's inclusive of Clinton supporters. So I think this will energize the base, and it will also help bring African Americans, it will also bring young voters who were critical for Obama's success. So I think it's significant.
He brought in a Secretary of State, so
Yes.
what kind of job do you see her offering Bernie Sanders, if any at all?
I think Bernie Sanders might be given one of two options. One option is the Secretary of Education, because it's well documented that he wants free education, and a lot of young university students like him, as well as maybe Secretary of Labor, because he's been fighting for the labor issues, and it seems like Bernie really wants to put the minimum wage up to $15. So I think between Secretary of Education and Secretary of Labor.
And then, very importantly, who do you see her picking as a vice presidential nominee? We had a look at some of the contenders a few seconds ago. Who do you think is the ideal pick?
Okay, I think I can throw in a few names, then I can tell you what I think is going to happen.
Sure.
Okay, we can start with Elizabeth Warren. There's also Cory Booker. There's also, I think, Tom Perez.
Yes, Tom Perez, yeah.
And there's also the senator from Ohio, is Sherrod Brown.
Yeah.
So these are just a few names I just had to put out of the way. But first of all, I don't think Elizabeth Warren might be her running mate for obvious reasons, because I feel that because she's losing the white male vote to Trump badly, so I don't think having another woman would help with that demographic. So we can go to Cory Booker. Cory Booker seems very young, exciting, but in terms of experience, there are more experienced options like Sherrod Brown. So personally, I would actually think Tim Kaine, the senator from Virginia, would be the best option. And if we have enough time, maybe I can explain why I think is the best option.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that, and I'm going to invite you back to the show again in the future. I just want to move on to the Republican side, and we're going to play a quick soundbite now. We're going to go back to 1988 when George H.W. Bush picked Dan Quayle, who was only 42 years old, senator from Indiana. And this is what he had to say in his vice presidential debate with Lloyd Bentsen, who was the Democratic VP pick. And you'll see now how Bentsen had a go back at Quayle after he had this to say.
It is not just age. It's accomplishments, it's experience. I have far more experience than many others that sought the office of vice president of this country. I have as much experience in the Congress as Jack Kennedy did when he sought the presidency. I will be prepared to deal with the people in the Bush administration if that unfortunate event would ever occur.
Senator Benson.
Senator, I served with Jack Kennedy. I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy. Famous words from Lloyd Bentsen. Quayle was only 42 years old at the time. It didn't really matter because the Republicans won that election in 1988 anyway. But it is significant because Quayle was attacked for his age, and Donald Trump potentially could pick someone from Arkansas who's a senator there, 39 years old, Tom Cotton. Would that be a wise choice, or doesn't it really matter?
I think it wouldn't be a wise choice because Tom Cotton looks 20, even though he's 39.
That's not a good thing.
And the thing is, Trump, if elected, would be the first president in history without any government experience, political experience, and military experience. And getting a 39-year-old vice president, someone within touching distance of the Oval Office, would be risky. So personally, I don't think Tom Cotton has enough experience to be vice president. So I don't think he would take Tom Cotton.
Very interesting.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to stay right there.
Okay.
We're not going to move you left or right of the political spectrum at this stage. But I need to move on to some of the other news that came through from the United States in the past week. Donald Trump set off his latest firestorm this weekend when he tweeted a graphic critical of Hillary Clinton that featured a 6-pointed star, a pile of cash, and the words, "most corrupt candidate ever." Watch this.
Donald Trump has tweeted a graphic critical of Hillary Clinton that featured a 6-pointed star, a pile of cash, and the words "most corrupt candidate ever." Critics erupted with complaints that the graphic evoked anti-Semitic imagery, and the Trump campaign refused to answer questions about the tweet, even as reports emerged that the image had been posted to an anti-Semitic white supremacist message board 10 days earlier. Trump downplayed the controversy in a tweet Monday morning by slamming the media. The Trump campaign finally issued a statement that amounted more to a response to the Clinton campaign statement than an explanation of his tweet. Trump rejected the Clinton campaign accusations that his tweet was anti-Semitic by slamming false attacks and insisting the star represented a sheriff's badge. On Monday night, the Trump campaign's social media director, Daniel Scavino, filled in some details on what he said were the image's origins. Scavino said it was lifted from an anti-Hillary Twitter user where countless images appear. These explanations, though, were rejected by the chairman of Anti-Defamation League.
The United States celebrated the 4th of July with parades, baking contests and picnics draped in red, white and an extra layer of blue as police ramped up patrols because of concerns about terrorism and gun violence. Millions of Americans marked independence from Britain and celebrated throughout the country.
The July 4th fireworks display on the National Mall turned into a dreary affair, as low-hanging clouds made most of the pyrotechnics impossible to see. The holiday in the nation's capital was hindered by unseasonably cool and rainy weather, and crowds on the mall were noticeably thinner than in the previous years. But the National Park Service vowed to continue with fireworks unless the weather was dangerous.
And now, with the fireworks going off behind us, here are Jack Everly and the National Symphony Orchestra to perform Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture.
Whilst in New York, more than 1 million spectators braved a light sprinkle of rain as they watched Macy's annual July 4th fireworks display. The Macy's show was aired live, and organizers said it was the biggest fireworks display since the Millennium Show in 2000. Meanwhile, U.S. President Barack Obama celebrated the country's military as well as his daughter Melania's 18th birthday at the White House to mark America's Independence Day holiday on Monday.
Dear Malia, happy birthday to you. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. God bless America.
Obama continued to recognize the story of American independence as something the country has to fight for every single day.
Story of independence is not something that happens and then we just put away. It's something that we have to fight for every single day. It's something that we have to nurture. And we have to spread the word. And we have to work on. And it involves us respecting each other. And it involves us recognizing that there's still people in this country who are going hungry. And that they're not free because of that.
The capital's annual fireworks show took place afterwards, marred by rain clouds.
Tinashe Chuchu still in studio with me, Wits lecturer. Tinashe, let's talk about Independence Day, 4th of July, major event in America.
Yes.
And you go back to the founding fathers and the principles and values that America was founded upon. Do you think that Clinton and Trump have been true to those values?
Speaking to the American values, you would find that this election cycle really didn't focus much on the values, but we can look at a few values, like, for instance, the written constitution was a major part of the founding fathers' principles, and a major part of the written constitution is the Second Amendment. I think everyone in the world knows what it is, the right to bear arms. And it's well known that Trump is a staunch supporter of the NRA, and the NRA has formally endorsed Trump, and Hillary Clinton is talking about sensible gun laws. She wants universal background checks. So the major difference with what the founding fathers had is the right to bear arms. This is the major difference that Clinton and Trump have as far as the principles are concerned. Yes.
We were also talking earlier about potential vice presidential nominees. You mentioned Tim Kaine, and you said you'd like to tell me why.
Yes.
Here's your chance.
All right, thank you. In 2000, it was Florida. In 2004, it was Ohio. This time, it could be Virginia. Why? Because Tim Kaine was the governor and senator, so he knows Virginia very well. And hypothetically speaking, if we put all the states that Romney won into Trump's column and all the states that Obama won into Clinton's column, we are left with 4 critical states. We are left with Colorado, New Mexico, Florida, and Virginia. And for argument's sake, if Trump gets Colorado, New Mexico, and Florida, it would mean that if he also gets Virginia, which is a state that Obama won twice, we are going to have a 269 scenario. That would mean that no one will get the magic number, which is 270 electoral college votes to get elected. That would mean that Congress will elect the next president, and that's how you will see Paul Ryan becoming the next president.
Very, very interesting theory. On that note, let's assume that Paul Ryan doesn't become the next president and that Trump is actually the man, well, at least he is the man anyway in the general election. We didn't get a chance to talk about who his VP pick would be. Who do you think he'd go for?
I think the top contender is Chris Christie, because Chris Christie was the first supporter for Trump who was his challenger. And I think Christie will pull in moderates. That's what I think.
And on that note, New York is obviously where Trump hails from. New Jersey is where Christie hails from. But those are very, those dark blue states, aren't they? Could that turn around and become a red state or even a light red state under a Trump-Christie ticket?
I think in our lifetime, New York and New Jersey will never turn red. Just like Texas, it will never turn blue. So I think Christie wouldn't help carry New Jersey, but you might help bring in more establishment supporters because he's a governor and he's well respected. So I think Christie is probably the first pick, but we have people like Senator Jeff Sessions from Alabama, we have Tom Cotton, and we also have John Kasich, who is a governor in a battleground state, Ohio, and no Republican has ever won without Ohio. But I still think Christie is the top pick.
That's very interesting. I'd love to have you back on the show, and I'm going to invite you back. Thank you so much, Tinashe.
Thank you so much.
Much appreciated. Tinashe Chuchu from Wits University, the lecturer there, and we appreciate him being with us, and he is coming back. Now, an internet meme depicting Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump as supervillains, Harvey Two-Face and the Joker, respectively, has garnered much attention this week. It may mirror the feelings in the States right now, when they want their president to be a hero but feel they're going to get a bad guy. That is the inspiration for this week's fun look at the US presidential race.
It's the battle for the White House. Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. both are vying to be a modern-day Captain America. Or at least a hero Americans can all be proud of.
I'm Batman.
However, many feel they're nothing but villains. Clinton actually has a lot in common with supervillain Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. Both come from a legal background. Dent was Gotham City's district attorney after all. Trump is hoping to be a hero himself, surrounded by sidekicks. Some say he is a supervillain in disguise. Others say he's just a joke. It seems someone is going to have to keep watch over these two, and that's no laughing matter. And if you thought this was corny, wait until next week's fun look at the battle for the White House.
It's that time again where we take a look at the latest poll numbers coming out of the United States. Let's begin in the most important state from a Democratic point of view. And there you can see in California, that's not looking too good. If Trump is getting 56% and you got Clinton down at 52%, so something might not be working out so well there for her. Let's move on to the next of these states, 49-46 in Connecticut, traditionally a blue state, Clinton leading the way there. Next up on our poll meter for this week, we move on to our next state, which is Iowa, 52 versus 28. That's a massive gap. That really should be something that Clinton will carry. But again, Iowa is not a state that would carry a lot of electoral college points. So that is one of those things. Now, New York, this is interesting because obviously Trump is from New York, but Clinton was a senator from New York. She's leading the way there. And then Ohio, this is one of those crucial battleground states we spoke about. 51% to Hillary, 35% to Donald Trump. And that's all we have time for on this edition. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be back again next week bringing you the latest in the battle for the White House. The numbers were wrong on New York, eh? Was it 46? Okay, because I think this thing said they both had in the 50s. So I realized it was wrong, but I just carried on. Just have a look. Sorry, California, 52, 56, you see. So it's probably 46, eh, or 36. No, but hang on, how do they both have in the 50s? Really, hey? You know what, it just seems dodgy to me. Or 52 and 46 or something, eh? You know what, should we leave it? Can we drop it? Okay, just for the sake of, let's rather be, ooh. Oh, that's not good, this button just fell off. This jacket's button. Why are ANN7 buying cheap stuff, eh? Okay, we'll just put it there. Okay, we'll start with Connecticut. Okay. It's that time again where we take a look at the latest poll numbers coming out of the United States, and we'll begin in Connecticut. Hillary Clinton with a narrow lead there, 49.3 versus 46.5. And remember that Connecticut is very much a blue state traditionally. Next up, Iowa, 52.8 versus 28.6. Hillary very much in the lead. But don't forget that Iowa is not a state that carries a lot of points in the electoral college race. So it might be a victory, but you're not picking up all that many points. New York, this is interesting because Hillary is leading 53.1 to 46.5. Hillary Clinton was a senator from New York. Donald Trump hails from New York originally, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. Ohio, this is key. There's a battleground state. 35.4 to Trump, 51 to Hillary Clinton. Remember that no Republican candidate has ever won the White House without winning Ohio. And North Carolina, this is interesting, 57 versus 41.3. Hillary Clinton with a comfortable lead there in that state on the American East Coast. Florida, very important battleground state as well. 60% there. Hillary Clinton in a comfortable lead over Donald Trump, and that's something that she will want to hold on to. Don't forget that 2000, Al Gore, George Bush, Florida. I don't need to elaborate much on that. And then overall at the moment, if it was just a straight out popular vote and the election was held today, Hillary wins 52.8 to 46.5. But don't forget that there is an electoral college process and system that is in place. So even though you win the popular vote, you don't necessarily win the White House. That's all that we have time for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next week as we bring you the latest news and conversations in the battle for the White House.